Well, hello again. Last time, which happens to be yesterday, different t-shirts, um, we were we left it at a position in which we wanted to think or deal with the whole collection. Now we have two ways of handling that. Game itself can hold the collection of all the stuff, and just because we want to add um, additional logic, we can have additional methods on game which will need to be public so we can test them and make sure that everything works. We could try to add the actual code within the score functionality, which will complicate the score, will make a score far bigger than it is at the moment. The other thing that we can do is to get the functionality out into its own object. Like I was mentioning yesterday, Jippo Hill, about if you have a collection, you have a wrapper around the collection. So either game is the wrapper around the collection, or you have something else, a different object that could be the wrapper. What could be the case over here? Well, we have said that we need to be able to identify when we are on a frame, to know if we are in the first roll or second roll, to be able to detect if something is a spare. So I was going to do a different way, but now that I'm thinking about it, just gonna try to do the simplest thing possible, yeah? And to do the simplest thing possible, is it gonna be the simplest thing possible? I do not know. So I'm thinking maybe I should have try to keep it all within this class for now, not to extend. And once we have done some of the code, then we can say, oh well, this is too much to have it on this specific class. Let's gonna move it out. The other thing with so that allows us to not create classes that we don't want or we don't need. Yeah, don't try to do things before you do them, so before they actually need them. The other thing is that a colleague of mine, Pedro did mention ages ago, Pedro Santos Moreira mentioned ages ago a class tracks functionality. So if I create a class, even if it's for something very simple, that will attract functionality onto that class. There is some gravity in function over there around code. For now, let's gonna put it on the game class. Let's gonna put it on the game on the game class. We have said that we need to do two things. Yeah, we need to be able to know if we are on a first roll or not, and we need to be able to then to do the calculation after. So let's gonna go with the first roll. Are we on the first roll of the of the frame? Frame is a concept. We could create a class for it, but just because you have a concept doesn't mean that you need to actually have a class for that concept, because maybe it gets subsumed by something else, or maybe it is not fully needed within the system. Let's gonna see. So let's gonna start again with the name of the game. If we haven't done anything, then this should be true, yeah? Okay, threshold doesn't exist, so let's gonna create it. Did I create it? Yeah. Okay. Which now that's gonna fail. Standard thing. So simplest possible solution for now. Let's gonna go with this. Okay, so that means now that I'm having second test, the first one needs to change the name. Let's gonna finish with this implementation, and then we deal with the rest. The rest meaning changing the name of that test update, which I don't like. Okay. Now, that means that after we do call role, we have to change the result of its first role. The only way to do it is having something in place that takes care of it. Okay, everything passing. We're just gonna change the name of that test. After everything is clean, we can do the some refactoring. So okay, so now we have the next test. Over here, and this one should be true. Easiest way to handle this is just keep flipping it up. Now I could convert this first roll into a property. But we are gonna leave it for now as a separate method and a member variable. Could be a property. Right now there is no specific reason why it couldn't be. The one thing that I'm gonna mention is that because we are doing it this way, the public API from game has increased. Now instead of having roll and score, we have roll score and its first roll. So the user of this library now has more things available. Sometimes you want to do that, sometimes actually that's a bad idea, and you want to keep this kind of public API constraint. You have the option of doing, I think it's still an option, is friend of whatever it was called, that you could say that a different library was still could ship private stuff from another one, something like that. I don't remember too much. It was years ago, but I kind of didn't like it back at the time. And once I moved away from C# into doing other languages, I kind of even dislike it even more. So we are taking this is a decision right now that our API has increased, or the surface of an API has increased. Sometimes it's okay, especially if the library is gonna be for internal use exclusively. But if you are going to do something that's gonna be for external use, maybe that increase on library size, it is not really appropriate. It's not the thing that you want to do. Okay, so I have kind of just do a jump over here. Maybe like if I add a test over here right now for 3 of them, this one is gonna pass straight up. So this is false. So this test is not adding anything new into our system. Then what is the point of this specific test? Nothing really. And now what I'm looking at is that now what we have discovered is a property, yeah, which is with normal rolls. You are flipping between first roll if first roll is true or false. And maybe we are gonna be introducing some property testing around this, but maybe later. For now, this is not really needed. It doesn't doesn't necessarily bring anything into the fall, so gone. Okay. Now, what we need, we have this idea that it's first roll, and we are flipping back and forth here into if it's not if it's one or not. Then we need to add we are gonna need to check if something is a spare or not. This is also we can fulfill the test. By the way, I just realized I forgot to start my Pomodoro, which is gonna be just gonna reset this. No, reset. I have to change the sounds that they do because that horn is just killing me. It's killing me. Okay, let's gonna go back to this. Oh no, what are we doing? Test. Let's gonna get the test first. Now, the is true, the is false over here. Actually, I'm disliking it. It's not important, yeah. The fact that it's true or false. What is important is that we are describing the test should describe what you are which functionality you are testing. The fact that it is true or is false, I already have that information on the test itself, yeah. So that is true is false up there. Doesn't make any difference. So let's gonna finish this one and then we fix that. So I'm creating the scenario. That's the definition of the scenario on the name of the test. We could change this as well at some other point. Even that is not I'm not 100% happy with it, but that's fine. That's fine. Let's gonna get this first this thing set up. So okay, let's gonna add now the actual code over there. Now it should be able to build, and we do the same. Actually, no, when the frame when the game is created, the last frame, the last frame space it has to be false. As you start the game, it's gonna have to be false. Return false. Okay, that should pass all the tests. Awesome. Let's gonna remove this is true and is false over here because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Just look into the test. That one over there. Okay. forward. There we are. Okay, we have a single roll. This still should be false, yeah. Okay, still false. Again, this hasn't added anything into the any kind of logic. We could delete it again, like the same thing that we did with the other one, which means that even actually maybe the first one is incorrect when the game is created. Maybe, I don't know. They feel like two different scenarios, yeah. While with the first one we just were adding additional roles. With the each first role, we were adding additional roles into the test. Didn't bring any different scenario or specific scenario. This one you can make better the case that it does. Okay, let's gonna get the next one in place. One advantage of doing these ones that are passing just as they are is that they are gonna bring, once we add the next step, these ones provide the safety net for us. But we could have gone straight up for the functionality that brings the change, which is the next test that I'm going to be creating, and then add these ones later on. So I could have reversed the order. So after okay, so this is the first one that is actually interesting from the last ones that we have created. This one is gonna bring something new. The fact that we have to change the value, yeah. Multiples of ways of doing this. We can calculate it on the fly as we are doing this roles over here. We can do something slightly different. But what we're gonna do is just on the spot scores oops, what I'm doing, sorry. Okay, we don't really want first, we want last. In fact, we want the last one and the previous to the last one. So let's gonna do it some other way. Where is he failing over here? But let's count this is C#, so it should be like that. Or is it length? Why is even failing? Okay, let's gonna check the sometimes okay, so we are gonna check if something's a spare, yeah? There's gonna have to be a boolean, and that's what we are gonna be returning. How do we know if something is spare? Is because the two rows of the frame are actually have a value of 10. So we are gonna see some issues over here the way that we are doing this. Now I can see them coming. And then that means the spare now is a boolean, and we can return is spare over here. This is gonna break quite a few things, which by the way we have seen that it actually already breaks them. Yeah. One of the main things is that what happens, you can see that failing in two of them, which are the first, the initial one plus the second one. Yeah, plus so initial test when nothing has happened, and the second when something has happened but it's just a single row. So you are never gonna have those kind of values. We can see that if we come over here in the set of range, So what we can do is the first thing is to test the size. And this is C#, so we need this in place. So I'm gonna put this for a second over here. Okay. Now everything is passing again. And everything is passing correctly. That's cool. But I have seen just, I have just realized that there is a scenario that is not gonna be handled correctly, yeah? We could pass different, and maybe we want to do that. Maybe we will pass all the scenarios in which 10, we have a value of 10 over here. So 3719. Is it important? Well, maybe. Definitely, that is as well. That could be a property. Check for anything that doesn't, the values are not 10. That all of them should be false. Everything that values is 10 should be. Okay. So we need to keep moving this forward, yeah? Now, this is an issue that I can see happening. And therefore, we need to test it to make sure that this scenario is handled correctly. The first two roles do not make a spare. It's 9, so it shouldn't be a spare. But this is a frame. These two are a frame. The next one is the first one of the frame. So this one should be false. So if we check the tests as they arrive, it fails. And it fails because it's considered, instead of being false, it comes back as true. So we need to take into account if we are in the first role or not. And the important thing about taking into account if we're in the first row of node for this is last frame spare is that we need to check that it's first row. Now, what I'm thinking over here. I am thinking that the way that I have named this method is last frame spare. It doesn't matter in which role. If I have done already the first role of the current frame, I'm still checking about the previous frame. So we can use that into our advantage. We could use that into our advantage. Yeah, okay. Let's gonna do that. Do that first. We want to do a few changes over here. We are gonna introduce a variable, first row of last frame. And then we have a second row. By the way, there is I am doing this change knowing that there is an error over there. maybe the right thing to do is to take the test out for a second. Probably it's always the right thing to do. Take the test that is failing for a second, because this is on refactoring that I'm doing at the moment. So I'm kind of skipping a step over here of going back, rolling back for a second to be able to do refactor all on green. Sometimes if you know what is going on, it's not a big difference. If I were teaching TD, I will tell you not to do this. Yeah. But after you have some experience, well, sometimes you skip some steps if you are 100% confident of what is going to happen. And then, of course, it always happens that you face plant. It always happens. It has the advantage, this refactoring, by the way, has the advantage that it's more clear what you are doing in line 23. Okay, so what I want now to do is, rather than just doing -1 and -2, I'm gonna check if it's the first roll. I want to modify those two numbers that I have over here. Because we are in the current frame. Let's gonna look about this. 3, 4. If I am in the current frame, whatever it is, and the first roll, -1 and -2, is gonna give you 2 and 1, yeah, which are the rolls that we're interested in. If we are on the second roll of the frame, -1 and -2 will give us 3 and 2, which is not what I want. I still want to have 1 and 2. So this is first. We don't need to use the method over here. Is this is first roll, then the modifier, we are not going to change the modifier, otherwise we want to increase the counts by 1. This is running. All just passing. Wait. Always be happy when one of your test passes. This is, you need to enjoy the job. If you don't enjoy the job, what is the point of being at the job? Okay. Now that everything is passing, I want to do one small refactoring as well. I do not want to. There is no point on this on having this. Oops. On having this variable in there. Yeah. So remove. Everything is still passing. Yeah. Okay. In that case, I'm gonna have to do something about that at some point. I have to make it always select whichever is the biggest window, because oh, we have done quite a few things over here. Oops. No. I'm gonna, instead of adding everything together, I'm gonna do it into different steps. We're gonna add that one. we are gonna add that, and we are gonna add this one over here. I wonder why Game Dossiers is using the Control M. That's just I know it has to do with the way .NET creates the files, and probably set up as a Windows file, and it gets all funky. Maybe we could remove that. It's not bothering too much at the moment. But let's gonna oops. Okay, that has gone on my head, so that's another Pomodoro done. So we are done for now. We will come back in a few minutes or longer. Who knows when I'm gonna be recording this.